One of the things that motivated me very early in my life to do the work that I do, going back to my childhood, growing up in a village in Mexico first, and coming from a family of a great-grandmother being a midwife, an aunt being a curandera / social worker, and my mother always doing things for other people, even though she had a lot of kids herself. I think that's where my beginnings of social work, advocacy started. And then growing up in the migrant family, traveling for 10 years from Texas, Mexico, Texas, California, and Washington, and seeing the struggles that the family went through, sometimes, in a labor camp, traveling miles and miles to go see a doctor that sometimes wasn't there because the small clinic was closed. Being the interpreter for my mom and hearing through my interpreting all the things that she was going through. I think that was my, my push to think about maybe later. I didn't think at that time, I didn't think that I would get a formal education or get a social work degree or become a chemical dependency professional. That was not something that I even thought about way back then, growing up. It was more of, I will do what my grandmother did, my great-grandmother, my aunt, which was help. Not in a, not getting an education back then, because it was something that I didn't grow up thinking, because I didn't see it in the other kids in the labor camps, especially the girls, when we played around and talked. Sometimes, once in a while, we would say we'll be teachers when we grow up, but we also saw it very, very far away. So my idea was becoming a lay worker or help people, in a very informal way, like my relatives had done before, other women in my life had done before. The health profession that I think I ended up being in started with my interpreting with my mother, going to the doctor and seeing how humble she, how grateful she was to just be seen by the doctor. I mean, no questions asked, trusting the doctors or whoever was seeing her, actually feeling embarrassed to be there at the clinic when I felt in my young mind that, it was her right as a woman to be seen. So I would add my own questions. So once I was done interpreting, I would ask the doctor, and why, and why, and why. And she would quiet me down, don't anger the doctor, don't, I'm fine, I'm okay. So my advocacy started with my mother, being the interpreter. As far as other social justice issues, I think it had to do with the interpreting again, negotiating peace work, interpreting for my dad. And actually, when he was content with a price, I would say, no, that's not right. We need to be paid more. So I would get on a rant with the employer and say, that's not right.